Get all the news and controversy of the NFL right here on the Blitz Zone with your hosts, Eric Rosen and Jamie Hickson, as they discuss the hot topics concerning your favorite players and team, the winners, the losers, the big plays, and the big hits from around the league. Right here, only on the Blitz Zone.
Friday, October 7th, 2016. It's that time of the hour for your favorite NFL and college football program. Welcome to Week 5 of the Blitz Zone. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Rosen, and we're coming to you live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. And with me, as always, is my main man, co-host, partner extraordinaire, Mr. Jamie the Sportsman Hickson.
Yeah, I almost didn't make it over here like moments ago. I was out getting some food, and just as I was pulling out of the parking lot, one car made its way in and almost hit another car that was pulling out of its parking spot. Next thing you know, there was a huge shouting match that took place. I'm surprised that no punches were thrown.
Well, at least, all's well that ends well. No fights broke out.
Mm-hmm. And there's going to be some fights breaking out this weekend, I'll tell you right now. Oh, yeah. There's going to be a Red River fight. There's going to be a fight in Pittsburgh. There's going to be a fight in Green Bay.
And
there's going to be fights all over the football field.
Yeah, the fact that we're now into the second quarter of starting the second quarter of the season, and what have we learned so far from the first quarter?
Well, one thing that we've learned from there's actually a few things that we've learned from the first quarter. Number one, the Giants are not as great as people made them out to be after 2 weeks. Two, the Jets need a change in quarterback in the worst way.
Geno Smith?
No, not Geno Smith, please.
I knew you were going to say that.
3, the Browns are still the Browns. 4, as far as any great teams that are out there right now, well, let's put it this way. The Patriots are still strong even without Tom Brady for 4 weeks. That's because the defense had carried them for the first 3 weeks, and they are still the team to beat in the AFC in general.
I would think also the offense played some part too, especially LeGarrette Blount played a huge part in the first 4 weeks of the season for the New England Patriots. On top of that, the fact that they had a stable quarterbacks in Garoppolo and Brissett that actually were able to right the ship the first 3 weeks. Unfortunately, they got shut out in Week 4 against Buffalo, but we'll get into that in a bit.
And there's another point to be made, and that's the play of the rookie quarterbacks in this game. Dak Prescott for the Cowboys has played very well. Carson Wentz of the Eagles has been nothing short of remarkable, but I want to see what these kids can do in real pressure cooker games. I want to see what Carson Wentz can do when he faces Dak Prescott and the Cowboys down the road. I want to see what he can do coming into MetLife Stadium when he plays the Giants, or if he goes up against the Redskins. Let's see what he can do in these division games, in addition to games against the really soft teams in the schedule.
I think what I like about these two rookie quarterbacks, with Dak Prescott, no moment is ever too big for this guy. 4th round pick out of Mississippi State, and look what he's done. He's thrown over 130 attempts without so much as an interception. I believe 5 touchdowns on the year, and on top of all that, he, like I said, no moment is ever too big for him. He's got great poise. He can run out of the backfield, and then you have a guy like Carson Wentz. Talk about poise. He's got great athletic ability, can really extend plays with his arm. But I think he's got a better arm than Dak Prescott does. Honestly.
He really does. If you see the way he throws the ball deep down, especially down the right side of the field, everything is a tight spiral out of this young man.
And, he has the ability to run too. That's the thing. And if you look combined at their interceptions, none on 233 attempts. That's crazy in itself right there.
That's the most important stat that you can get out of your quarterback. If the quarterback doesn't turn the ball over, chances are they're going to win games with that quarterback 99.9% of the time.
And then you have a team like the Atlanta Falcons, the way they've come out gangbusters in the last 3 weeks of the season, including this past week, Matt Ryan's 500-yard performance and Julio Jones receiving 300 of those yards. And then, you have the Denver Broncos, the defending Super Bowl champions, and they're 4-0 And who thought you lose some parts of your defense like Malik Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Manning retires, all right? Also, and DeMarcus Ware now injured too, and yet they're still 4-0 because they got Trevor Siemian under center, even though he was injured this past week in Tampa. The fact that you have Von Miller, who's the star that he's always been at 6.5 sacks in the year, leading the league, and you have a good staple receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and C.J. Anderson the boot in the backfield.
Yeah, but what's going to be of the Broncos this coming weekend? Because they have the Falcons, which I think is going to be a really interesting matchup. We know who's taking the snaps from the center for the Falcons, but who's going to do that for the Broncos? Is Simeon going to come back from his injury, or is it going to be Paxton Lynch, who took over for him and didn't necessarily have eye-popping numbers, but still was able to manage the game enough where the Broncos got a 20-point victory over the Buccaneers?
From what I'm hearing from Coach Gary Kubiak of the Denver Broncos, it's looking like Simeon is ready to start. But there are other quarterbacks that didn't start this. Well, one that didn't start last night, Carson Palmer, who unfortunately sustained a concussion week 4 against L.A., and they had to put Drew Stanton in. And actually, Drew Stanton didn't do too bad of a job last night. They did win on Thursday night against San Francisco. And then the other quarterback that got concussed, unfortunately, was Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Right now, he's under the NFL concussion protocol. They're playing Monday night, Carolina, at home against Tampa Bay. So he's going to be a game-time decision, most likely. I'm thinking maybe I would say 60, 70% chance that we're going to see Cam Newton play this week. If not, it's going to be Derek Anderson. And so at least I think Siemian will be able to play against Atlanta. Now, as for some of the other injuries that took place, well, actually, let's get into some more news, like the fact that one person's returning this week. Who could that possibly be?
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, as if every other opponent in the league did not have enough problems, they're basically conceding the Super Bowl to the Patriots right now because, according to one unnamed person, Brady's going to kill everybody.
He's a caged lion. Just think, he's a caged lion. He's about to be unleashed on, of all teams, and I feel really bad, the Cleveland Browns. Like, they haven't had enough already. That's another thing. You know what I learned also from this season? Like, Cleveland and San Diego, teams that actually could have been 3-1, and they blew it either late in the game or early in the game. Either way, this Browns team in particular had a 20-0 lead week 2 against Baltimore. Blew that game. Week 3, Corey Lamonier in Miami gets the strip sack, setting up what could have been the game-winning field goal for Cody Parkey. Misses wide left. They had to go to overtime. They lose 30-24 in the J.J. game-winning run for the Dolphins. Then last week, they had a 2017 lead in Washington. And what did they do best? They blow
self-destruct.
They self-destruct and lost 31-20.
I think you could argue that the Browns might have blown it on draft day when they decided to trade the second overall pick to the Eagles for a package of picks. At the time, I thought it was a good move because, quite frankly, the Browns needed to fill a whole bunch of areas of weakness. But looking back, would things have been different for the Browns if Carson Wentz was the quarterback? We're not going to know, but all we know is the Browns are still the Browns, meaning the Browns are still an embarrassment.
Not to use a fairy tale reference, it was like they traded a cow for a few specks of magic beans.
More along the lines of trading a Mercedes-Benz for a Hyundai.
I know, it's pathetic. And Tom Brady coming back, after the Deflategate suspension and all the ruckus that took place and the appeals left and right, whether it be Richard Berman from the federal court, on behalf of Tom Brady, and then the fact that Goodell appealed to the appellate courts on behalf of the NFL, and eventually the appellate court ruled in Goodell's favor, and that's what almost prompted Brady, the players' union, to make another appeal that could have gone all the way, say, to the Supreme Court, but it would have taken so much time and money that it was not worth it. In the end, Brady decided just to take the suspension. He did. Now he's coming to Cleveland. God help the Browns. That's all I have to say.
And quite frankly, he can move on from this once he steps onto the field. He doesn't have to worry about anything else except taking snaps from center.
And he's not the only one coming back. Rob Ninkovich, too. In that pass rushing unit, is going to make them even better because he's a nightmare to deal with coming out of the backfield and when it comes to stuffing the run. Then you got Marcel Darius. He's still, I believe he's in rehab right now, but the Bills have actually won 2 games in a row. Believe it or not, they're second place in the AFC East, and they got 1 game over the Patriots, and we'll get into that game in a bit. And another bit of news that took place after Tennessee lost 27-20 in Houston. They decided to hit the panic button and fired their special teams coordinator, Bobby April, a guy who's had plenty of NFL experience, over 20 years. And because of the fact that the special teams unit gave up a 67-yard punt return to Will Fuller, Mike Mularkey decided to fire him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, right?
When you think about it, you have to consider the source here. It's Tennessee, a team that has gotten off to such a horrific start. Special teams is not their problem. The fact that Marcus Mariota is a turnover waiting to happen, that's one problem on their hands. The other problem is their defense cannot stop anybody.
Now they're going to Steve Hoffman. That's who's going to be replacing, who also has over 20 years of experience. He's actually been with the Jets and the Rams and so many other teams in his history. So good luck to you helping that team out this coming week at home. Well, I think it's going to probably end up being the home game for the Tennessee against Miami because, come on, how are they able to play in the Hard Rock Stadium with everything that's going on?
It's funny that you mentioned this because the league just announced that the game is still going to go on in spite of the threat of Matthew after all. But I got in contact with my Miami relatives, and they tell me Hurricane Matthew just went by the city. I think it was a day or two ago. So fortunately, things are a little more safe and sound in South Florida, and they can just move on.
I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
I'm happy that they're all right.
I got a lot of family in South Florida, all of whom are Dolphins fans, and obviously they're looking forward to this game.
And how about the Colts? They got rid of Antonio Cromartie and C.O. Moore because of the piss poor job they did in London against the Jaguars.
Antonio Cromartie is no surprise. If anything, I think he might be washed up at this stage in his career.
Well, you got to look at the way he played, especially he allowed a touchdown in this game. That is inexcusable as a cornerback, and he's not exactly in the prime of his career where he can do things like that and be forgiven. As for C.O. Moore, he was acquired years ago from the Oakland Raiders, who he had issues with in their scheme, and they just decided to get rid of him, and look what it did. It's actually done nothing for him, and he's been on thin ice with the organization. So it's not really shocking to see CO go. It was a matter of time when that was going to happen. As for another person who just got dumped by a team, Justin Forsett, but we all knew this was coming with him and the Ravens. He came in really because of the fact that Kenneth Dixon, the rookie that they acquired in the past draft, was injured. And the fact that Terrence West had a great performance against Oakland, despite the fact that they lost by 1 point. He had a 113-yard performance. I think he's finding a better place in Baltimore than he did in Cleveland.
Yeah.
As for
any place is better than Cleveland right now.
And guess who's coming back to the NFL and going to be with the Falcons?
A.J. Hawk, the longtime Packer, got himself a new deal.
This is a guy who lifetime with the Packers, 921 tackles, 19 sacks, 9 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, a part of that Super Bowl 45 team in 2010 with the Packers.
He's had a really good career. It's just a matter of, one, if he wanted to play again or not, which he really did, and two, whether there was going to be a team out there that really needed a real impact player on the front seven in order to try and make a difference.
And especially the way this Falcons team is playing right now, they could use all the help they can get. Let's go into recapping the week that was, week 4. Starting in jolly old London, England. 9:30 in the morning, of course, I was up like so many other people watching CBS. The Colts, Jaguars, AFC South rivals. And man, this looked like a blowout at first, a 23-6 lead for the Jaguars, including that early interception off of Luck that led to the T.J. Yeldon touchdown, made it 7-3. You would think it's over, right, after it's 23-6. But, of course, who's on the Colts team? Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Not only that, but the Jaguars really haven't had that much experience especially some of the young players that they have, they don't really have that much experience in trying to protect the lead. So you think they might have gotten a little bit too comfortable there, and the Colts, with, of course, Andrew Luck leading the way, wound up making things a little bit more interesting than they should have been.
How about the first touchdown in the fourth quarter? A end zone pass interference on Jonathan Cyprien leads to the Frank Gore touchdown where he bulls his way into the end zone, making it 23-13. Then Luck leads a 12-play, 78-yard touchdown drive that concludes with a T.Y. Hilton touchdown in the right corner of the end zone, making it 23-20. Then, unfortunately, even after that, Blake Bortles finds Allen Hurns on a short out route, cuts inside, goes 42 yards down the sideline, making it 30-20.
That was a huge play in this game to try and make things more interesting.
And that's what ended up giving the Jaguars the lead for good, because even after that touchdown, Luck was able to get a huge 64-yard pass to Philip Dorsett, making it 30-27. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the ball back from Jacksonville. Jacksonville won 30-27. Very tight this game. Now let's go to the Patriots in New England in Gillette Stadium, and something happened for the first time in over 3,000 days.
The Patriots wound up getting shut out at home. That's what happened.
And the last team to actually shut them out was the New York Jets, 1993, 6-0.
I remember that game. That was where Boomer Esiason was at the controls at quarterback.
Yeah, that was years after he left his time with the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And what really the play that really got them the victory was the LaShawn Shady McCoy touchdown pass from Tyrod Taylor for 7 yards in the first quarter, and Dan Carpenter's 3 field goals, 2 of which were in the first half. They ended up winning this game 16-0, and they forced 3 fumbles off of Brissett and that Patriots offense.
Yeah, wasn't a well-disciplined game played by the Patriots. They were very, very sloppy offensively. And it wound up leading to Buffalo really capitalizing on Brady's absence.
Yeah, well, at least this week, Brady is back, and hopefully this week we'll see Rob Gronkowski actually get some plays.
Yeah, things are going to change for the rest of this season, especially when it comes to the Patriots.
Now, you talk about ridiculous, because I know you like to say the sublime but let's take sublime out. This was just utterly ridiculous. At the Georgia Dome, the Atlanta Falcons hosting their NFC South rivals, the Carolina Panthers. And what did Matty Ice do? He threw nothing but gold. 503 yards, 4 touchdowns, 300 of those yards to his main prime man in the wide receiving core, Mr. Julio Jones, or J Square as I like to call him, on 12 catches and a big touchdown play.
Quite frankly, that game should have been a blowout, but I think the Panther defense might have been a little bit too relaxed. Not only that, but after Cam Newton's injury, which forced him out of the game because of the concussion.
In the fourth quarter.
The Falcons had to go with Derek Anderson as their replacement. The Panthers make things close, a one-possession game. They have a chance to tie with a touchdown and a 2, but what happens? Derek Anderson throws a pick 6, and that ends the game.
Yeah, the Robert Alford 30-yard pick 6 with about 1:14 to go. And in fact, he threw 2 interceptions when he came in. And now he could be the starting quarterback for Monday night. That is a scary prospect for this Panthers team. They're 1-3. This was a team that went almost the entire season undefeated in 2015.
And now they're looking at a possible 1-4 start going into Monday night.
While the Falcons are really, like I said, they are coming on like gangbusters.
Yeah, let's see what they could do for the rest of the regular season, though, because the Falcons have been a real tease in the past.
How about Cowboys 49ers? Ezekiel Elliott had a 138-yard performance, 96 of which was in the second half. In fact, in this game, they were down 14-0 to the 49ers. And what does Dak Prescott do? Even with a 2-touchdown deficit, he takes his team to equalize in this game, including a pass to Bryce Butler at the end of the first half to tie it all, and then Ezekiel Elliott getting the 1-yard rushing touchdown that gave Dallas the lead for good. They end up winning 24-17.
Yep, like they always say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the Cowboys made just enough adjustments in that game. And, I forgot, Blaine Gabbert was the quarterback for the 49ers, a guy who's done absolutely nothing in this league.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah. And can you believe Chip Kelly is still saying that Kaepernick is not ready? I'm telling you that there's something a little bit more to this than meets the eye.
It's what's going on with the whole thing with the anthem. That's what's keeping him. But you know what? Whether you agree, disagree, whatever your stance may be on what he's doing right now, the fact of the matter remains, this 49ers team needs Kaepernick back under center. Whether you like what he does or not, this guy can play. He's got an arm. They need to use it next week. They lost last night, in fact, to the Cardinals. Get into that in a bit. How about the Cardinals? Speaking of which, the Cardinals hosting the L.A. Rams. That's another thing we learned from the first 4 weeks. The L.A. Rams, for the first time in over 2 decades, they're 3-1 and have sole possession of the NFC West.
You know, there's been some talk about who the worst team that's either 4-0 or 3-1 is, the Rams or the Eagles. I think I could argue that the Rams could be the worst of the 3-1 teams in this league because they're still very sporadic at quarterback. I still think Jared Goff should be the starter, but they have enough of a running game, and the defense has been really, really solid this first quarter of the season, and that's why the Rams are tied for the West lead.
I think what was crazy about this game was the fact that you had 2 touchdown passes from Case Keenum to Brian Quick. Brian Quick had a great performance, including the opening touchdown for 4 yards. Actually, that was the game-winning touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Tavon Austin punts the ball 47 yards after the penalty that the Cardinals sustained, and it sets up the Case Keenum game-winning 4-yard touchdown pass to Brian Quick with about 2:41 to play. And the Rams ended up winning 17-13. And the Cardinals, for a bit, they had a 13-10 lead after the Catanzaro 21-yard field goal. But because of that special teams penalty, they lost the game by 4 points. But yet the Cardinals did redeem themselves last night. Detroit, I can't believe this. 1-3, even with Jim Bob Cooter, one of the best names in all of football. It's still.
I can believe it. You know why? Because one main reason is because the Lions are really missing Calvin Johnson in the slot. And now that he's retired, who do the Lions go to as that big target receiver? You mentioned Golden Tate, but I'm not really sure that he's a number one guy.
He didn't do great last week. For a part of that game, he was actually benched. They need to get him more involved this week, and he has to do a better job being the guy to carry this wide receiving core. As for Marvin Jones, he's going to have to do the same thing as well and get his act together. Even though he did have 74 yards receiving, but still, he's got to step up even more this week. And as for Stafford, those 2 bad interceptions at the very end didn't help things, especially the one in which he was throwing the Golden Tate. Tate messed up on that route. There was bad miscommunication left and right. They end up losing 17-14, and the debut of Jordan Howard for the Bears, a rookie 5th-rounder out of Indiana, 100 yards in that game. Good performance. At least the Bears got that first victory. Now I think Jay Cutler is going to be loving that bench for some time.
Well, let's see if they're true to their philosophy, because I think Bears fans can tell you they've had their fill of Jay Cutler already. It's time to move on.
Well, speaking of being filled or fullered, the Houston Texans hosting their AFC South rivals, the Tennessee Titans, and Will Fuller does a first in Texans history. He returns a punt for a touchdown, first time that organization's had a punt return for a TD since 2013, and he gets a receiving touchdown. All in the same game. He helps his team end up winning that game 27-20.
One-man show for the Texans there. Here's another thing that we've learned. The Texans are actually better at quarterback with, of all people, Brock Osweiler.
Well, he's got a good core of receivers to throw to. You know, Braxton Miller has been there for the last 2 weeks because of injury, but you still have Will Fuller, who could be a Rookie of the Year candidate, possibly, along with, say, Carson Wentz and some other player, or Ezekiel Elliott, he'll have to compete against, or Dak Prescott. Those are really the top 4 right there. But the fact that Will Fuller has come on very strong, great guy to complement DeAndre Hopkins, which they needed. And this was the first game without J.J. Watt, who's done for the year with the back injury. And this is a Tennessee team that still, other than DeMarco Murray, there's little, if anything, on that offense, and very little of Derrick Henry. I'm really pissed about that. They need to get him more involved.
I don't know what it is. I mean, first Trent Richardson, first Mark Ingram, then Trent Richardson, and now Derrick Henry. There's something about these Alabama running backs where we don't hear from them again once they leave Tuscaloosa.
Well, I'm going to give you the sports quick right now for Week 4. The Cleveland Browns, of course, do what they do best, and that's blow a lead. They were up 20-17 in Washington and allow Washington to score 4 times in the red zone, 2 of which were passes from Kirk Cousins to Jordan Reed, the tight end. Redskins win 31-20.
And more importantly, they break even after that 0-2 start. They've won their last 2. So now they can try and build a little bit more momentum for the second quarter of the season.
And while the Browns can continue floundering as they have always done, as we always expect them to do, the Chiefs, of course, got a whiff of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it wasn't a good one.
Oh, boy. That was ugly from the word go. But can you really be surprised? I mean, first off, Ben Roethlisberger was spectacular. Number 2, the defense that they played against a really strong Chiefs offense just goes to show you that the Steelers maybe are not necessarily long in the tooth defensively after all.
This was a Steelers team that still is trying to build the secondary up. There's still a work in progress. You know, when you don't have Troy Polamalu there anymore, was a major stalwart in that secondary, and you don't have some of the other players that they had, this is a bunch of rookies that they're training to really take over in the secondary that's still having issues at times. But they did in this game. They only gave up 2 touchdowns, and they were garbage time points for Kansas City. But Ben Roethlisberger, the fact that he had 5 touchdowns in this game, 4 of which were in the first half, 2 of them off of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this, a Chiefs team that forced 8 turnovers Week 3 against the Jets, had turnovers themselves Week 4 against the Steelers. And the return of Le'Veon Bell for the Steelers in their backfield, along with him and DeAngelo Williams. How amazing is that?
It's really amazing.
I envy Mike Tomlin, the fact that he has those 2 guys in his backfield. They ended up winning 43-14. Awesome. Broncos in Tampa, and for the second straight week in Tampa at a home game with, 6 minutes to go. The game gets delayed because of weather.
Specifically a really violent thunderstorm.
And it took them an hour and 22 minutes to get through that with 6 minutes left, but they still end up winning Denver 27-7. And what does Jameis Winston do in this game? He
turns the ball over.
2 stupid interceptions he throws to one of the people you should never throw towards, Aqib Talib, who actually is a former Buccaneer.
Yeah, former Buccaneer, former Patriot, and now a current Bronco.
Yeah, who has 3 interceptions, tied for the second most in the NFL right now. There are guys you just do not throw towards. He being amongst them, and Richard Sherman. You're asking for it when you throw it their way. Aqib Talib had an interception and a 25-yard return. That led to a C.J. Anderson touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And even with Trimmer Samion's injury, still, they won. How about, this is crazy, this game. The San Diego Chargers at home against the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, boy. I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yep.
Chargers and Saints. It's Drew Brees' first appearance in San Diego since he left to sign with the Saints in the spring of 2006. He was discarded by the Chargers because they didn't think that his throwing arm was strong enough after undergoing a major shoulder surgery. But what does he do? He's now in his 11th season in New Orleans. He's basically helped to rebuild that franchise from nothing, specifically after Hurricane Katrina, and he winds up leading them to a pair of NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl title.
And this is the crazy thing. This is the 3rd game for San Diego. They have a lead with less than 5 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, and they do what they've done best this year. Blow that lead. They're up 34-21. And what happens? Melvin Gordon fumbles the ball. Darryl Tapp recovers. Takes to the San Diego 13. It ends up leading to a Michael Thomas 5-yard touchdown reception. Makes it 34-28. Then Travis Benjamin fumbles the ball for San Diego. Recovered by New Orleans. Leads to a John Kuhn 1-yard touchdown with the extra point, making it 35-34. And then with 1:10 to go in the game, Phil Rivers throws an interception to B.W. Webb of the Saints secondary. They lose the game, 35-34. It kills me. This is a team that could easily been 3-1.
You think Drew Brees is probably thinking revenge there, that he wound up getting